President and CEO of Planned Parenthood of Illinois and Planned Parenthood Illinois Action. We are all here today because we are furious. We are collectively infuriated at the Supreme Court and its plans to overturn Roe v. Wade and ignore half a century of settled law. This is a devastating blow for millions of people who will find themselves in a vast abortion desert. They will be faced with the daunting dilemma if they travel thousands of miles to a place like Illinois to get the care they need, if they seek an illegal alternative, or carry a pregnancy to term against their will. To be clear, abortion is still legal in our country, and Roe has not yet fallen. But the draft opinion that has been circulated that started this event today was not a surprise to us. We've been expecting this decision and planning for it for years. Here at Planned Parenthood of Illinois, and with all of the colleagues standing behind me, we believe that patients should make decisions about their bodies and their health care, not politicians, and certainly not 9 people on the U.S. Supreme Court.
Hear, hear. Yeah, absolutely.
The reality is that abortion is very common and supported by people across the country. Nearly 1 in 4 women in America will have an abortion in their lifetime. That means that every one of us in this room knows someone who has had an abortion. The court and politicians passing restrictive laws are ignoring the reality that the majority of Americans believe, in poll after poll, that abortion should remain legal. Fortunately for all of us here, abortion is legal in Illinois and will remain legal in Illinois. We are a haven for care in the Midwest. And here at Planned Parenthood of Illinois, we are working to ensure that every patient, no matter where they live, has access to the health care they need and deserve. We are so grateful to our champions, more arriving every minute. One of our staunchest champions arriving now. We are so grateful to our champions in Congress, the General Assembly, in the City Council, and to the Mayor, who are standing with us here tonight in solidarity. You can see by this that elections matter and voting matters. With that, it is my privilege to introduce Chicago's Mayor, Lori Lightfoot. Thank you, Mayor.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is certainly a sobering moment for us. I think I, like many of you, when we started to hear the news last night, there's a part of me that was in disbelief, particularly that a draft opinion was leaked. But as Jennifer said, this is not a surprise. We've known for decades what the plan has been. What the plan has been to gut Roe without any regard to the consequences for women all across this country. And we simply cannot go back. But today, I'm angry. But importantly, I'm motivated. I'm motivated to make sure that we take this moment as the opportunity, truly that it is, to stand united in support of women all across this country, and particularly here in the Midwest, that Chicago will always be a beacon for women to express themselves, have total control over their bodies and their reproductive rights. And as mayor, I want to make sure that we are doing everything that we can to be ready. We've already started the conversation with Planned Parenthood and others of our clinical partners. We know there already has been an uptick in women coming from states like Texas that have already implemented restrictive reproductive rights legislation. And we expect, unfortunately, that there will be more. And to be clear, people should know this. There are many states for a number of years that pass what we call trigger laws, which means that if Roe is struck down, and now I think it's a question of when, not if, that automatically all abortions will be banned in those states without any exceptions. And they are surrounding the state of Illinois. So we know, as really the center of the Upper Midwest, and we've got to be ready to make sure that we say in unequivocal terms that women here in Chicago, but also in the surrounding area, are going to continue to have access to reproductive rights, and that we are going to be standing with them to provide support services, whether it's the actual clinical procedures themselves, whether it's the post-procedure supports on the front end to make sure that they've got the resources that they need to travel. We will make sure that those resources are readily available in the city of Chicago. And I just want to say I am grateful for our partners that are here with us tonight. I mean, our congressional delegation is phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal in everything that we need. Well, yes. Congresswoman Schakowsky corrects me, and that is correct. Our Democratic members are phenomenal in their support of our city and also our state. And I also want to say Kelly Cassidy, who is here representing, I think, a legion of people in the Illinois General Assembly, and Kelly herself has been a staunch supporter of a women's right to choose from the very beginning. I also want to give a special shout out to two members of the City Council who are here with us today, Michelle Smith and Gil Villegas, also ardent supporters of a women's right to choose and reflective, I think, of the overwhelming sentiment in our City Council. We must be united in this time. You know, we've been a little moribund. We've been a little despairing in hearing the national news, but this has to be the thing that sparks us into action. This is our moment. It's got to be a total call to action. And look, I also want to play lawyer here for a little bit and tell you the implications of this. If you look at that draft opinion, Roe is so important for a number of reasons, not only for a woman's right to choose, but the right of privacy that the court found in deciding Roe are the underpinnings for a number of other decisions that have come down in the ensuing 50 years, not the least of which, and I'm particularly concerned about this as a person of the LGBTQ plus community, the anti-sodomy laws that were struck down, that's at risk. And particularly same-gender marriage is at risk. Make no mistake about it. Yep. And I just have to say this. I know that this is not a political rally here, but I have to say this. I'm deeply offended by the tone and the content and the language choices that are used by Justice Alito in that decision. Mm-hmm. It is mean-spirited. Yes. There's no other words to say it. It is mean-spirited. And I'm sorry, but to say that people of same gender who want the same ability to marry the person that they love and have rights of citizenship, to be able to pass on wealth, to be able to make sure we don't worry if we're sick in a hospital, that our spouse has the same rights as somebody who is of opposite gender, those are not phony rights, sir. And I'm deeply offended by the use of that language in the statute, in the draft opinion. I hope smarter, cooler heads will prevail on the court when the final decision comes out, because those are fighting words. Those are divisive words, and that is the last thing that we need in this moment in our democracy. We've all been through a tremendous amount over these last 2 years, and the divisive winds that have been blowing way before a certain someone came down that escalator back in 2015. We need to bring our democracy together. This is not the time for us to tear people apart, and that's exactly what this decision will do. But people of goodwill all across this country, we must band together, and we must make sure that we are supporting the people who are going to most dramatically affected by this. And I want to make sure that people know, if you've got, as Jennifer said, and I want to uplift this, the abortion is still legal in our country. The decision has not been finalized. It is not the opinion of the court yet. So if you've got existing appointments, if you are making a plan, continue on, and we will support you every step of the way. And again, I want to make sure that people know here in the city of Chicago, working with our clinical partners, working with our Department of Public Health and our healthcare system, we will be ready to handle the additional cases, the additional work that's absolutely going to be coming as a result of this decision. Again, it's a day for certainly of reflection, of anger, of despair, but I hope in my heart that it's also going to be the mark of a day of action and more to come. And so at this point, I'd like to invite to the podium Congressman Krishnamurthy to say a few words as well. Congressman.
Thank you. Good afternoon, and I want to say a special thank you to Jennifer and Planned Parenthood Illinois for hosting us. I want to say a special thank you to the mayor and all of our colleagues as well for joining us today. You know, ours is a nation of fundamental freedoms and rights, and among them for the past 50 years has existed a woman's right to reproductive freedom. It is perhaps the most personal and private of our rights and freedoms. And yesterday, in an outrageous draft decision leaked to the press, the Supreme Court plotted to terminate this freedom. Today, the 70% of Americans who want this freedom reacted with outrage. How did Chief Justice Roberts react? With a call for an investigation into the leaker. I would respectfully suggest that Justice Roberts and his colleagues investigate their conscience. While this decision, when handed down, will move our country backward, I'm confident it will not stand the test of time. Before the Civil War, the Supreme Court ruled in Dred Scott that a slave could never attain their freedom, even in an escape. That decision did not stand. In Plessy versus Ferguson, the court ruled that separate but equal is constitutional. That decision did not stand. As the Supreme Court hands down this monstrous decision, depriving millions and millions of women, our mothers, our daughters, our sisters, of their fundamental right to reproductive freedom, this is what we're going to do. We're going to fight in the Senate to overturn it. We will fight at the ballot box to elect members of Congress and the presidency who will terminate the tenure of this radical extremist court and once again protect women and our precious freedoms and rights in the highest halls of Congress and in the Supreme Court. Thank you. I'd like to now introduce my colleague, Robin Kelly.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Mayor, and my colleagues on every level of government. When the news broke last night that a leaked draft opinion shows the Supreme Court has voted to overturn Roe v. Wade, I was horrified and stunned. Today, like the mayor said, I am just plain angry. For nearly 50 years, American women have had the right to choose to have a safe abortion. Women have had abortions for millennia, and overturning this landmark decision will not change that. It will only mean more women will die. I am outraged that our daughters and granddaughters will once again have to fight for rights we've already secured. I have seen firsthand the importance of allowing women access to safe abortions. I served on the board of Planned Parenthood in Peoria, Illinois. And when I was a child, my mother bravely survived a backroom abortion that she needed but could not legally access. Overturning Roe v. Wade will force countless women to give birth against their will, including women and children who are raped, women and children who survive incest, and women who are carrying unviable pregnancies. It will cause women to die. Overturning Roe v. Wade will legalize forced birth in a country that has one of the worst maternal mortality and morbidity rates in the world. That rate will skyrocket when we are not able to legally terminate ectopic or other high-risk pregnancies. Overturning Roe v. Wade will disproportionately impact Black and brown women, low-income women, women without transportation, and women living in rural areas. I will not sit by as the Congresswoman or the chair of the Democratic Party of Illinois and watch as our rights are destroyed. We need to do everything we can now, and we also need to make sure everyone votes like their life depends on it, because it does. I will continue fighting to ensure women's access to care. I will fight to pass the Women's Health Protection Act into law. And finally, and will all my colleagues up here, to make sure that law passes and finally codify the right to choose a safe abortion in every state in this country. I will fight for women and families. Thank you. And with that, I'd like to introduce my colleague from the 9th District, Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky.
Well, I'm so proud to be here at Planned Parenthood with all these incredible champions. You know, I wear a button that I have had for a long time, and that button says, Roe was not the beginning of women having abortions. It was the end of women dying from abortions. And let's be clear, that is the consequence of Roe v. Wade being overturned. I was with a friend the other day, an adult man, who told the story about his mother, who was told by her doctor that if she had another pregnancy, if she delivered a baby, she would die. And so she made arrangements to go to the only state at that time that performed abortions. That was in New York. And so she did everything she could to put the money together, and that's what it takes to travel to another state, put the money together and got to New York and was told it was too late in her pregnancy. She had to go home, and she died. And she left a 7-year-old, that's how old this man was at the time, and a younger sister as orphans. Is that where we're going to go? And the answer is no. I want to tell you right now, I don't exactly know how it's going to look like, but women are not going back. Women are not going back. And we can win this battle. I was up much of last night. I was strategizing in my mind how we are going to mobilize people all over this country in this fight that we have to win. You know what? The Supreme Court is trying to put women as second-class citizens, that we don't have this not only fundamental, it is a threshold right that we have had and that we need to have. By that I mean, if you don't have control over your body, bodily autonomy, you cannot plan your life. You cannot plan your future. So I'm telling you that right now what this court is also doing is going against the will of the people of the United States of America. Recent polling has told us that the vast majority of Americans are against overturning Roe versus Wade. We know that most Democrats agree with that, and that 75% of independents agree with that, and the majority of Republicans agree with that. So, as Representative Kelly said, we passed, and I think you mentioned that, Raja, that we passed the Women's Health Protection Act in the House of Representatives, which would codify Roe v. Wade. The Senate has not done that yet. But you know what? We only need a couple more Democratic senators, and we will have enough votes to stop the filibuster, to pass the legislation, and restore women's rights if they dare to take it away. But I want to tell you, if I were in a Republican district, if I were Republican, in a swing district right now, I would not be happy. Because the American people, American women, the men that support us are going to be out there to vote. We can get this done. Thank you very much.
Jennifer, thank you for having us out here. I'm Sean Caston from the 6th District. Thank you to Planned Parenthood for all that you do. I know I speak for all of us this morning, that I woke up this morning, I went to bed last night angry, frustrated, disoriented, sitting here saying, what year is this? We're going back to the Stone Ages? My goodness. How do I look at my daughters and tell them that they live in a country where the Supreme Court of the United States values their life? And if you think I'm being hyperbolic, that is the consequence of this decision if it goes forward. If you don't know a woman who has had an abortion, that means that you have female friends who do not feel comfortable talking to you about their life. 1 in 4 women in this country will have an abortion before they turn 45, whether from red states or blue states, every faith tradition that's out there. Before Roe was passed and signed into law, Rush University Hospital, just down the road from here, had an entire wing dedicated to sepsis. That is the Stone Ages that the Supreme Court wants to take us back to. You mentioned this right to privacy that is the bedrock of that. Our friends in the LGBT community who are protected by that. The right to have contraception is protected by that right to privacy. Your right to not be forcibly sterilized by your government is baked into that right to privacy. That is what they would take us back to. Now let's be very clear. I'm going to absolutely fight, as long as I'm in Congress, to absolutely protect every woman's right to make every choice for their own bodily autonomy. It is the right thing to do, and not just because I have daughters, because I don't want people to die. If you want to protect, if you're concerned about abortions in this country, if you want to slow that down, give people access to contraception. Period, that's it, full stop. Now, I want to leave you with a little bit of hope. We have a pro-choice majority in Congress right now, in the House. We have that pro-choice because a whole lot of people saw this coming in 2016. They mobilized, they marched for women. They made sure that we flipped the House. They made sure that I could come in and flip a seat that was Republican for 50 years, and not just any Republican. The seat once held by Henry Hyde is the seat that I hold. The man who put a budgetary rule in that already effectively killed Roe for women who don't have the means that those of us who are more fortunate do. Jan, I remember when I first got elected, I said I want to be the person given this seat to make sure that I can cast the deciding vote to end the Hyde Amendment. I'm proud to co-sponsor the Each Woman Act to do that. I'm delighted that we passed the Women's Health Protection Act, which would give every woman the right to full abortion service, but would also, more importantly, take the rights away from the Supreme Court because it's clear they don't have the responsibility to use them. Right now, we've got 48 senators who are on board with us on that. We've got 52 who think it's more important to preserve the filibuster than to preserve women's rights. And so we just need you all to get motivated. We got to vote. We got to get out there. We've got to pass these laws, and we've got to do it because we are kind and decent people. I know the majority of us are, even if we got some problems with some of our colleagues across the aisle. So thank you for being here, and keep up the good fight. And now, please introduce my colleague, Marie Newman.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I have to tell you, this is intensely personal for me. I've been in this fight for 30 years. I have walked, I have protested, I have led, I have written, I have worked on legislation for 30 years. So the fact that we are back at this point is infuriating, and I think all my colleagues share that. But it's also infuriating that I have a daughter that is a trans woman. And right now, she is incredibly scared. Incredibly. And I just want to be clear that there is not a lot I can say to assuage that, given that opinion. That I read the opinion last night, too. And I am very concerned, because guess what? They're coming for women's bodily autonomy. What's next? LGBTQ rights? Healthcare rights. I have a dear friend with cancer right now. I can't help but be very worried for him. Civil rights. And on and on. I think you get the picture. Economic equity. All of those things are on the table. So right now, I've got good news and bad news. I've got bad news for the conservatives and Republicans, and I hope you're listening. We are energized like nothing before, and we are ready to go. So that's the good news and the bad news. So bad news for conservatives and good news for us, and that's the silver lining. So I appreciate everybody in this room and across this great state, and I'm so grateful to our state legislature, our mayor, and our governor, and the amazing Planned Parenthood folks, NAREL, and NOW, and all of the great organizations that support all of this work, and I couldn't be more grateful to them. But I will tell you, and I give everybody homework, everybody needs to tell 10 friends that might be on the fence about this issue that this means the difference between equity, equality, and civil rights, and not having any of it. So get busy.
All right.
Good afternoon. I'm Congressman Chuy Garcia, and I'm proud to stand with all of my colleagues and Jennifer and the mayor and everyone to say unequivocally that everyone deserves the right to control their own bodies, their own destinies, and their futures. And that's why we're here today. As a Mexican American and as a Catholic who took a stand on the question of reproductive rights and abortion before it became more acceptable, I stand with all of our community and unequivocally in defiance of the intention of an apparent majority on the Supreme Court. Why? Because the impact of overturning Roe v. Wade, whenever that decision comes, will fall harder on Latino, Black, and people of color, and poor people across the board. And let me be clear, criminalizing abortion does not stop abortions. The reality is that Roe v. Wade, people will still be needing abortions, but instead it will happen behind closed doors with danger and with shame. The conservatives who seek to overturn Roe v. Wade cannot stop the fight for justice and equality in our country. And all of us understand all of the repercussions of such a decision. The question will be, who will be next, and who will follow, and who will follow thereafter. So today we stand here because all of us unequivocally believe that if this decision comes down, it is an assault on women, it is an assault on freedom, and it is an assault on self-determination and minority rights in our society. We must stand together. We must stand as one community and as one America. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Do we have time for questions? We can take a few questions. I know some of our congressional colleagues need to go, and we certainly understand if you need to go, but we're happy to take questions.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Mayor. We're going to kick it off with Kate from ABC 7. Go ahead, Kate.
Thank you. Hi, this question is for Mayor Lightfoot. Hoping you can give us clarity, given the fact that 2 Chicago publications have indicated that Bally's Corp is the front runner for the Chicago casino, and that one publication indicated that your team will be meeting or have met to discuss this. Hoping you can set the record straight. Is there any truth to these reports?
Well, first of all, the evaluation committee has not even met yet. I think they were maybe convening sometime this afternoon, but I certainly haven't gotten any kind of recommendation. So I've seen the reporting, and I think one said that I met with Bally's today. That's just simply not true. I understand, obviously, that there's a great deal of interest. This is an incredible opportunity for us to shore up our police and fire pensions. It's something that people should take seriously. We've tried to be as transparent as we possibly could be with a number of rounds of engagement. Winnowing the field to 3 finalists, making them go before the community to give presentations and ask and receive questions. The City Council has been and will continue to be actively engaged, but the reporting today, in advance of even the evaluation committee meeting and making a recommendation to me, that's just not accurate.
Just to follow up, so to be clear, there is no front runner at this point from your office.
So we have a very specific process, and the process is there's an evaluation committee that's been hard at work through this process. They will meet. They will evaluate all the information that's been provided by the 3 finalists to date, and then they will make a recommendation to me. That hasn't happened yet.
Thank you, Mayor. Melody from Black Club.
Hi, to follow up on the previous question, at the special committee meeting at the end of last month.
You know what? I would actually like to talk about the topic that we're here today, which is very timely. And I want to introduce Representative Kelly Cassidy, who's one of the architects of the Reproductive Health Act and the HB 40 ban here in Illinois. Yes.
Let me just say, I'm happy to do a pull aside with you, but I think Jennifer is 100% right. This is a very serious issue. And we're all here. We've come together with a sense of urgency, and we really want to take on-topic questions, and I will yield the podium to my friend and champion, Kelly Cassidy.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm Kelly Cassidy. I'm state representative of the 14th District. I use she, her pronouns. And as Jennifer said, I was the lead sponsor of the Reproductive Health Act in Illinois. And I am really incredibly heartened to hear from our congressional delegation about the efforts to push forward and codify Roe at the federal level. It's important, just as we have made clear that abortion remains legal in the country right now, and if you have appointments planned or if you're making a plan, continue. It's even more important to understand that here in Illinois, Roe falling won't change your rights.
That's right.
Right, because you. We made sure, seeing this day coming, we made sure that we built a firewall around Illinois. We passed the Reproductive Health Act, codifying the rights of Roe in our state statutes. We passed House Bill 40, eliminating our trigger law. We passed the repeal of the Parental Notice of Abortion Act so that we could have a complete firewall. We are working even harder now with that knowledge of all of the inbound patients, and Congresswoman Newman has left, but also aware that families are coming here to access gender-affirming care for their kids because they're being driven out of their states. We are working hard to ensure that our laws support those inbound patients, that we protect healthcare providers from adverse actions from other states, that we are mindful of not cooperating with efforts to impose those punishments that other states are now seeking to do. We won't give up. We still have that power here in Illinois to protect your rights. But the equal and opposite side of Jan's point about what we can do if we win, what's going to happen if we lose? They're going to pass a national ban, and nothing I pass in Springfield can do anything for us. That's right. Winning is our only hope. Put your boots on, lace them up tight, bundle up, and hit the doors, because this is the fight of our lives. And I'm really proud to have so many amazing partners in that fight. And I thank you for having us here today.
Perfect. Thank you. So we're happy, those few of us who are left, are happy to take any questions about this topic, please. And perhaps afterwards we'll have an opportunity for other questions.
That's all right. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.